Yes, under discussion. Did you raise your hand again? I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's the original hand.
I recognized it the first time and I
I
recognize it now.
respectfully ask that you recuse yourself from this vote.
Thank you. Any other comments? Under discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the adopting the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Is there any opposition? That item carries unanimously.
Thank you, people.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on then to H1, which is the minutes of the September 10th and September 17th meetings. And of course, I think we all realize we'll have to take these items up separately, as there were a few of us who were not at both meetings. So we can go ahead and take up the minutes of the September 10th, 2013 meeting. Moved by Supervisor Pyle to approve the minutes of September 10th, seconded by Supervisor Alba. Any further discussion? Ms. Spencer, under discussion?
I respectfully ask that you recuse yourself from this vote, sir.
I'm going to, thank you. And I'm going to excuse myself from this since I was not in attendance. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair abstains. Carries 3 to, is there any opposition? Carries 3 to, carries on 3 votes with 1 abstention. Moving on then to September 17th, the minutes of September 17th.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Supervisor Pyle,
Second.
seconded by Supervisor Alba to approve the minutes of September 17th. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, under discussion,
Yes.
it's really more of a form of a question, and I'd like to ask County Council for her opinion. I saw the minutes when they're emailed by staff yesterday. I was in transit coming back to Susanville and had a break and was reviewing, and under on page 2, the Lassen Flood Control District. I just want to make sure that we're on solid ground, that we don't have a potential problem. But the budget actions that were taken based on the hearing indicated that we had 4 aye votes and 1 absent, and the Lassen Flood Control District was actually established back in the 50s, I believe, by the state legislature. It's a 9-member board, not a 5-member board, and it consists of the 5 Lassen supervisors and 4 of the 5 MODOC supervisors. The supervisor that represents the Cedarville portion of the county is not in the basin, so therefore is not a member. Now, routinely and perfunctory, the Lassen board, because there's the 5 of us, and the purpose of this was, in this district, was primarily for getting the Allen Camp Dam built, but it also has some other water measures that are involved. And but anyway, with my absence from the meeting last week, that left only 4 of our board members, and I'm not sure if the MODOC suits were invited. Usually they are. Routinely, they never show up.
Except for Pat.
When Pat Control was there, she came down in her fire turnouts a couple times. And, but anyway, unless you had a MODOC board member present, I don't believe you had a quorum established. So the action taken probably is not, would have to be redone, I would think.
Well, one, I was able to confirm that the MODOC members were notified, and you're correct, they didn't show. We had 4 voting on it. And as far as quorums go, it can be a quorum of present members or a quorum of total members.
Well,
and these bylaws don't exist, so it
Yeah.
goes back to the 50s. So I would agree with you that 4 was not enough
well,
to meet
because
the
in
quorum.
the past, whenever we operated with even 4, we had a joint meeting with the MODOC board
Right.
one time, and,
Right.
and we were trying to establish a quorum. And my understanding is it requires a quorum. Obviously, I can't vote on the minutes. I wasn't here at the meeting, but I would. And you can't change what happened last week. But I think, at least in this meeting, we need to take notice of the. I guess that would be a defect, and that probably we should look at calendaring a kind of a reaction, because until you have 5 board members, you're not gonna have a quorum.
I agree.
So, and if it would take, 3 of our guys and 2 of their guys,
Right.
you can have a
Right,
quorum.
whatever it may be.
That just sort of jumped out at me, and I apologize for not having been at last week's meeting, because then you would have
Obviously, we
a
missed
quorum, and 2, if I'd been at the meeting and there wasn't a quorum, at least could have provided some benefit from the 50 years,
Historical perspective,
the 50
and
years
most
of
of us
history
forget.
that I'm notoriously flogged about, so.
No, I absolutely agree with you, so I think we're gonna have to put this back on the agenda, suspend the vote that was taken last week.
If we note those in today's minutes,
Right.
we can go ahead and approve
Yeah,
the existing
it
minutes.
doesn't change.
Because it doesn't change what we did, no, it
it
doesn't change the action
and the
taken.
minutes stand, should stand, but I mean, I was, when I saw that, I thought, oops, I don't think anybody paid attention to the fact that we didn't have a quorum.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. And did we have a, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, did we have a motion and a second on that? I think Bob did, the
Yes.
Supervisor Alba seconded. So we do have a motion and a second on the floor, it's confirmed. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Spencer?
I respectfully ask you to recuse yourself from this vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. And the chair does vote aye,
And I abstain.
and you abstain, so that will carry, approving the minutes of the September 17th meeting will carry on 3 votes with 1 abstention. Okay, we're gonna move on then to H3, Personnel, Lassen County Employee Handbook. Marty, you gonna take this, or?
On each, members, the staff in the personnel department is, for a few months, been working on an employee handbook. This is a convenient way for the employees to understand how the county operates and the rules that affect their employment. It has the added advantage of officially putting all employees on notice that they have received the handbook and acknowledge that they've been provided or been told where they can see all the personal and operating rules. So in some sort of dispute with that employee, the lessons they're going to say, I never knew that rule existed. So this is a common good business practice in both public and private organizations. Request that you approve the handbook, and we'll put it into place as part of our practices.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adopt the handbook.
Is there a second? Been moved by Supervisor Pyle, seconded by Supervisor Alba to adopt the Lassen County Employee Handbook. Anything under discussion from board members, from the audience? Ms. Spencer?
Yes, I actually read this, and I don't know if Mr. Nichols himself has proofread it, but it's fraught with misspellings and grammatical errors. And, can I give those to him, or does it
Sure,
matter?
the clerk, or you can give it directly to Mr. Nichols, I think
There's we like to.
surely appropriate.
It needs to be, before you approve it, it really needs a once-over, because there are a lot of misspellings in it. And they're not, the pages aren't numbered, but on county governmental services page, like I say, I can't reference any because the pages aren't numbered. But at the bottom it says compensation and probationary periods. And in this document, it does define the longevity pay. And I'd just like to note that it says an increase, a longevity increase 2.5% at either 5 years or 7 years. I think that should be clarified on what conditions the 5 years and the 7 years would enact this, because recently Mr. Wazik received a 2.5% longevity, and he hasn't even finished his 4 years term. So I think that needs to be defined clearly, not only for you guys, but for the employees.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anybody else in the audience? We have a motion and a second on the floor under discussion. Anybody else in the audience wish to comment on this item? Okay. Hearing none, pleasure of the board. Take a vote. Okay. All those in favor of approving the Lassen County Employee Handbook, and, you know, certainly, I would hope that staff would take care of any grammatical or spelling corrections, so. All those in favor of approving the handbook signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, carries unanimously. We're going to move on to item H4, CSAC.
Members, it's that time of year for the CSAC annual meeting to come up. In order for our representative to have voting rights at that meeting, we need the board to confirm who its member is, supervisor.
Oh, that is, and I've served in that capacity. Yeah, and I'd like to be a
Golden chair down there.
You gotta keep him in, he's doing a great job down there.
Then we have to,
I think Aaron
is the alternate. Okay, do we have to make that appointment as well?
yeah, it's part of the form.
Aaron, you know, I have to add that in my motion, Mr. Chapman be regular and Aaron be alternate.
Been moved and seconded by Supervisor Alba, is that correct, Aaron? Okay, very good. It's been moved by Supervisor Pyle, seconded by Supervisor Alba to appoint Jim as our CSAC chair, representative, and our alternate to be Supervisor Aaron Alba. Under discussion, Eileen?
I respectfully ask that you recuse yourself from
Thank
this
you.
vote.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, under
Yes.
discussion briefly,
Sure.
since Susan will be, I guess, the one that's filling out the form and returning it, they asked the question about whether or not the director would be attending the meeting in San Jose this year at the annual conference, and it's my intention to attend the conference the 19th through the 22nd of November, so.
Yeah, we need to get that registration quick. There's some breaking rights if we do it now. So we can see.
I took notice that and saw that being done the last 2 weeks. I haven't been around to deal with that, but hopefully we'll get that squared away with staff. But it was my intent to attend this year.
Very good, thank you. Okay, move on then to item H5. Supervisor Alba, you placed this on the agenda, I think it's a good thing you did, appreciate the opportunity to discuss it.
Yeah, after reading this is just, in studying up on it, I've kind of made some suggested changes to some of these, and I hope you guys have some time to look over it and get your feedback on it. You know, I just, some of the stuff I brought up earlier, some of the stuff's new. Let's see. I don't know if we need to go over these or not, if you guys have any questions on this. I'd be more than happy to answer them, or.
I'd suggest, there are suggestions that maybe he submit, maybe give it to Mr. Nichols and then.
And we'll come back here anyway.
Yeah, have to
Yeah,
come back.
yeah.
And Mr. Nichols will be working with Mr. Hancock from the city in terms of coming up with a revised draft, because I think all of us had some issues and concerns. So I mean, obviously these are concerns worth having a discussion. Maybe when they come back with a final draft, at that time, we can debate the merits of these particular issues.
Okay.
And I believe that's gonna happen at our, supposedly for our next meeting.
I think it was, but we had this sort of step in between.
Yeah,
so-
and I mean, I don't have an
I don't-
objection
right, I don't
to
either.
having this be given to Mr. Nichols to work with. That's, whether they all, the changes remain or will become part of the final product will depend upon, the consensus of the two bodies.
I philosophically agree with Supervisor Alba on his observation.
Yeah, I think there's some merit to it, and it's a matter of tweaking what Mr. Nichols and Mr. Hancock had originally proposed, so.
Okay.
So anyway, so that was my suggested changes to that, to the JPA as it moves forward, but it's the city more in charge of the county. I think I addressed one thing you brought up, which is
Yeah.
the board members, et cetera, so that's.
Well, I think what will happen is, to what extent these are practical and viable will depend upon what staff come back and say, yeah, that would work, and let's do it this way, where they come back and say, well, we can do it that way, but it won't work very well, and they'll have a reason, and at that point, they can give us whatever feedback they have to that. But I think it's worth having these all evaluated as that process goes forward. To me, I thought the document, that was my concern raised at the last time this was before the board, is I found, not to discredit Mr. Nichols or Mr. Hancock, but I found it to be an extremely complicated document for something that should be relatively simple. And some of the suggestions you have, I think, is designed to try to simplify and clarify so there aren't, it's not all gobbledygook, and it takes attorneys to sort out what it is that we really want to do. So
All that being said, it surely is coming back. It was
Oh, yeah.
never put out there to be in final form.
No, this was a draft proposal. The staff came back in reaction to the city council and board discussion that we're having. So we need to, massage it to a point until we're comfortable, and until that happens, nothing's gonna be adopted.
So I think the direction of staff then is to
Work with-
continue to work on it. As I said, I
And work with these,
philosophically agree with these
and
observations.
work with these suggestions.
Right. And others that may occur
Oh,
between
yeah.
now and the final document. But I appreciate Supervisor Alba's approach on that. Okay. Okay, we'll move on then to H6. And that's a resolution supporting the Get Connected effort of the California Emerging Technology Fund. Mr. Nichols, you place this on the,
Members, there are a number of initiatives around California and in the North State to try to develop various mechanisms to encourage the development of broadband services in rural California. This one by the California Emerging Technology Fund is one such, and I believe as part of our overall economic development strategy, we should be seen as supporting this general effort. I mean, there are philosophical questions about, whether or not it's an appropriate role for government to pay for broadband, and should the market make those decisions. But ultimately, if the federal government or the state government or the California CPUC is going to put money on the table, I'd like to see Lassen County position and say, we'd like our share.
I certainly agree with you personally. Anybody have any questions or comments at the board level? Anybody in the audience have any questions? Yes, Supervisor Chapman.
Obviously, there's some time that is necessary involved with this. Is Mr. Nichols going to be taking the lead on
Yes.
representing the county in these areas? Because I know that the supervisor from Mendocino County was one of the
Right.
board members that has been really pushing this, and he was pushing other board members to get involved. And the question is, how many are really being involved? And I think it would be something, if we're going to pass this, that's fine, but we need to have somebody who's our designated point person for the county to be facilitating those discussions. And if Mr. Nichols is willing to do that, I'm willing to support him doing that. He can report back to the board at periodic time to whatever actions we need to take from time to time.
I see this as an element of my new role as trying to coordinate our economic development
Right.
activities. I'm going to attend a meeting in Sacramento in a few weeks. There's a
Yeah.
regional meeting on this general subject of
I
broadband.
saw the email from Regina on that, and I would like to talk with Marty afterwards, and if possible, I may join in but I think it's important that we have a person who consistently is the point person for the county, and it is consistent with.
Because I agree with Marty, some resources, some federal and/or state resources are going to become available, and if we're not careful, rural California will.
Well, there's some folks who just assume not even have
Right.
rural California, so, and that's the way to do it. But it ties in with the SID's, initiative, and I know Marty's been reading it, so I appreciate him taking the time.
Anybody else under discussion? Okay, Chair to entertain a motion.
I move, Mr. Chairman, that we adopt the resolution supporting the Get Connected efforts of the California Emerging Technology Fund.
Been moved and seconded, moved by Supervisor Chapman, seconded by Supervisor Pyle to adopt the resolution supporting the Get Connected initiative. Any under discussion? Ms. Spencer?
I find it really sad that you put your own election results at the end of this meeting when it should have been the first order of business
You're not
on the
speaking on the item
17th.
on the agenda, Ms. Spencer?
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
And,
We are not on that item.
I respectfully
Eileen?
ask that you recuse yourself from this vote.
Mr. Jensen, may I go ahead
Go
and
ahead,
just expand
yeah.
on that? When we have a vote in this country, say the president is elected in November, he doesn't take office until he's sworn in January. Exactly what we have here. He's still our active, okay?
No, it's not the same vote. One's a
I'm sorry you haven't been recognized by the chair.
It has
You want to be
called.
recognized, raise your hand, the chair will recognize you. Mr. Schumacher?
It's not the same. One was a recall and one was a general
They
election.
still have to be qualified and take an oath before they're active. That's the same. If
Right.
you give
Well,
me the authority
Judge
to
Irvin thought
otherwise,
you
let
were
me know.
wrong.
Is there some confusion on what item we're on? We're on the broadband item. We're not on the recall item.
Just let's move on.
Thank you. Again, is there anybody under discussion on the broadband item? Get connected. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, it carries unanimously. Board's going to go ahead and take up H2, and I am going to not only recuse myself, I'm going to excuse myself.
Okay, we will take up item H2 at this time. Julie? Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Honorable Board of Supervisors. We have before you the certified statement of results for the September 10th recall election. And we are asking you to receive this certified statement of vote as per Election Code Section 15372, and 2, declare the results as per Election Code 15470.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions by the board? Eric?
Just for clarification, Julie, what's, on the background here, you have the official canvas was completed. What is the official canvas?
Official canvas is an audit of the votes. Basically, we have 4 people come in, and they have to start the Thursday after the election. That's the beginning of the canvas, and then it runs until it's completed. And it's 4 people who go through and hand count a certain number of the votes. They audit every precinct, the ballots that were delivered, the ballots that were returned, the ballots that were unused. They make sure every ballot is accounted for. Not only that, they certify that the AccuVote tape, the tape that prints out the results at the end of the night in the precincts, matches exactly what's on the computer that was printed in the office from the memory card. So it's like a thorough audit.
And who does, is this an outside agency?
No, these are poll workers, 1 office staff and 3 poll workers come in. And it helps them understand the process too, and why they have to fill out so much paperwork, and why they have to do certain things election night to account for all these ballots.
So this happens all the time? even
It
in general
is
or primary?
required after every single election. It starts the Thursday after the election. We've had them run through the following Tuesday after election on big ones. But this one we completed that week. You're welcome.
I have one question.
Mr. Chaffee?
Under the election code, how long, what is the time frame that the election department has before they have to have their work completed by?
We have 28 days to complete the canvass and certified election results.
Okay. So in terms
On
of,
every election, we have 28 days.
I knew there was a time frame that's put in there in terms of the actual process. I mean, obviously with one issue, one election, 28 days probably is not necessary, but to address the issue that's been raised several times during this morning's meeting, that there's this immediacy that takes place as it relates to the election process.
That cannot happen.
That provision of the election code makes it very clear that the election process isn't an immediate thing. There is a time frame that's involved, so. And we're well within that 28-day window today.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Any questions by the public? Sir, come to the podium and state your name. Thank you, Julie.
Hi, my name's Paul. I just wanted to know the actual numbers of the election result.
Actual numbers, well, they're in the,
I didn't see them today, pass out votes.
I think it's even in the papers somewhere. I'll give you that. Anybody else in the public have a question? Mrs. Spence, come to the podium and state your name.
Eileen Spencer, CandyHealth.com. We have officially sent the Secretary of State and FDC a complaint, a very large complaint against the way this election was handled. You may think there were no abuses of the election code. That is your prerogative. It seems like that's the state of this board and county council, but we have filed a official complaint with Secretary of State on how this was handled and the abuse of authority.
Anybody else? Seeing nobody, do I have a motion to declare the results of, as per election code 15-400?
So moved.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? Any more questions from the public? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Next on the business, Marty.
Mr. Chairman, during our budget hearings, it was, the board requested our office, working with the probation, look at the feasibility of closing Juvenile Hall. And a date of October 22nd to bring that report back to the board was established. On the 22nd, Mr. Albaugh will not be there, so I think this is a matter that probably should be considered by the full board. Request your authority to move that report to the first meeting in October. November. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I would say that would be fine, Mr. Chairman, with me. I think I was the one that was requesting that my concern was that in the past, it has, not under Mr. Nichols' leadership of prior CEOs, where we have an issue of great magnitude before us, and, we wait till like next May 15th to try to deal with something that happens on June 30th, and I don't want to see us wait. So that was the urgency of having it scheduled within the time frame. And November,
I think it's easy.
November the 12th is well within reason as it relates to the June 30th date.
Thank you.
Okay. Need that, Mark?
Yeah.
And I would just ask as chairman to